A large model Showman'S engine. This one is part 50, the last few remaining jobs. I needed a drawer to fit into the trolley to hold things, as you see here. So I asked a joiner who'd previously done some very good work on my house if he could make me one. And this is what I got, nicely dovetailed joints, very well made, out of a good quality wood. But he didn't measure the job properly and didn't notice that there are things sticking down from the bottom of the seat, which make a thorough mess of the wood every time you pull the drawer in and out. The other problem was the drawer itself was 2 inches short, and you know what they say, if you want a job doing properly, do it yourself, so here we go. The first and very obvious problem is the fouling of the bolts that hold the chair onto the framework. This was a very easy fix. All I had to do was notch out the back of the drawer to clear the bolt heads. Carefully cut 4 grooves using a hacksaw. And for the depth of the grooves, I just used the bottom of the chamfer as a register. Next, I very carefully used an extremely sharp chisel to take out 2 pieces of wood from between the saw cuts. And so the wood didn't splinter, I also used the chisel on the other side as well. For some reason, this one was more difficult to cut than the other, but in the end I got there and the piece was easily removed. The next part of the job involved using a file to clean up the mess that the chisel made. This is quite a new file and it's very sharp, and it soon cleaned up the 2 slots. To finish off the job, I put some wet to dry sandpaper around the file to get a really good finish on the wood in the 2 cutouts. This is the underside, and this semicircular cutout had to be there to accommodate the drawbar. This runs the full length of the driving truck. It's like a spine in the centre. But the curved slot cut by the joiner was a bit of a mess. Here I'm using my Proxxon angle grinder to clean it up. This clip shows the drawer after I painted the sides, which I had to extend first because they were too short. And this is a shot of the paint drying. The first job is now complete and I'm going to move on to the next one. This is another shot of paint drying, this time on the drawbar for the long passenger truck that I have. Here's the driving truck. It works very well. It was designed and built by my friend Bob Brocklehurst of Pugney's Light Railway. The only problem with a trailer on a traction engine or even a car is when you go backwards, it goes all over the place. Well, it does when I'm driving anyway. It's not too bad on a car because you do have a very sensitive steering system. It's less so on a small traction engine. So I'm going to make an anti-jackknifing attachment, which will allow me to connect the trailer solidly to the traction engine so it cannot rotate. This is a 7/16 of an inch diameter commercial bolt and it's very hard. What I'm going to do is drill and thread down the centre of this bolt to fit an extension. I don't know what sort of steel this is made out of, but it's very hard and it work hardens. My 5/16 tapping size drill was quite blunt and now it's even blunter, so I changed the drill bit for a smaller one. Now all I need to do is enlarge this hole using a tapping size drill for 5/16 by 32. But the drill is so blunt it's not cutting hardly at all and it makes a horrible noise. What did I do next? I sharpened it. How do you sharpen drills? Well, it's very difficult to show in the form of a video. I did it the hard way. I was shown by a professional engineer, a man called Roy Haynes, many years ago. And at first I proceeded to destroy quite a few twist drills until I figured out what the angle needed to be and where it needed to be. And it's not easy. Sometimes I still get it wrong, especially with the very small drill bits because I can't see them too well anymore. If you're concerned about sharpening drill bits, buy yourself a twist drill grinding jig. That makes the job a lot easier and more accurate. Using a 5/16 by 32 threads per inch tap, I'm now threading the hole down inside the bolt. For some reason, in my drawer of random nuts and bolts, I found a very strangely shaped bolt which will do the job. Here it is screwed into the top of the bolt that I've just threaded. I need to make a washer, at last a practical application for my piece of Allen bronze. I made a couple of them because I didn't know whether I needed a thick one or a thin one. The next part of the job is to make the link to go from the special bolt that I've made that fixes to the engine to another bolt that will be fixed to the driving truck. First of all, I took a measurement from the driving truck frame to the stirrup assembly. and by moving the driving truck, once that measurement was the same at both sides, I could get the measurement of the centre holes that are going to be drilled in a piece of 1/4 inch by 1 inch bar. And here is the piece of bar. First of all, I mark it out with a felt tip pen. The line to the right in this image is when I'm going to cut the bar to the right length. Once I'd done that, I was ready to go. Over to the drilling machine, and just for a change, I'm not using a centre drill. Generally speaking, I always use centre drills because these tutorials are for beginners, and using a centre drill is the best way to get the hole to be where you want it to be. But in this clip, I've just used a small twist drill, and provided you get the spot in the right place the first time, and here I'm using a ruler to confirm that the hole is going to be in the right place, you can just drill through first of all with a small drill, followed by a larger drill. Frequently I do find that the quality of flat bar stock as opposed to round bar stock is very different. This is taking some drilling. I'm having to put quite a lot of pressure on the drill bit to push it through the hole. I drilled both of the holes M10 to take M10 bolts. I'm going to round the ends of this link bar. There are many different ways to do this. Some people use a milling cutter in a milling machine. I really don't like that. I've always found it to be a very brutal way to do the job. So I generally chop the corners off like I'm showing here, which removes the bulk of the metal, and then I just trim it using my 1 inch belt sander and finish the job off on my 4 inch belt sander. Usually this does the trick, and there's far less chance of ruining the work than there is if you use a milling machine. Time now to put it all together. First of all, I drilled a 10mm diameter hole through the box section. I fitted a 10mm bolt, and you will note that I used a very thin Allen bronze washer. And by fitting this special bolt into the top of the bolt that's through the stirrup assembly, this severely limits the swing of the driving truck. For normal road running in a forward direction, I just remove the bolt and swing the arm back like this. But when I want to use it, for instance when I push the traction engine and the driving truck out of the garage, I just swing the arm out and screw the bolt in. The bolt only needs to be finger tight. Reversing round a corner is still going to be difficult because I can't use the link, so I'll try not to do that much. If you remember from the last episode, I took this part over to the steam workshop so Mark could weld it properly. Most of the original welding done a long time ago was breaking away from the parent metal. This passenger truck cum water carrier isn't very good at all, but it will have to do because it's the only one I have. The only good thing about it is it's quite narrow and fits in the garage alongside the traction engine. Now to test the driving truck link. Here I am pushing the traction engine out of the garage, and this is no mean feat. It is extremely heavy, and luckily so am I. This works in my favour when pushing the traction engine. This is much better. The anti-jackknifing link really works. Normally when I push the traction engine out of the garage like this, every 3 feet I would have to walk round the back of the traction engine and correct the driving truck. I've refitted the wooden drawer underneath the driving truck, and as you can see, the black painted part actually looks better than the wood did. So now I have somewhere to keep my oil cans, small bits and pieces in the food container, and in the main part of the drawer, things like my hammer, always useful for emergency dropping of the fire, and not forgetting the generator drive belt. And that concludes this episode. I'd just like to say stay safe and well, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my main Steam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists, and by doing that you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists you can actually watch the videos back to back.